What's up, you guys? Welcome back into iHeartRadio's official wrestling podcast, the Battleground Podcast. And today is a very special day. We have a guy that has been on the show numerous times that is about to, I think, take the record after this interview with most times appeared on this show. Mr. Josh Alexander joins us today.
Hey, I'm in the history books. There we go.
There it is. There it is.
I mean, you're in the history books for a lot of things, but let's just go ahead, address the elephant in the room, jump into 2024. It's already been an amazing year for TNA thus far. There's a lot of rumors going around on the internet with all the IWC and the dirt sheets about your contract and the re-signing and exercising the option and you possibly being unhappy. So now is the time. Can you set the record straight about the deal, about everything that's been going on the internet?
Rumors on the internet? No, come on, guys.
Yeah.
This isn't a real thing.
No.
2 years ago I signed a contract. It was 2 years plus a third-year option, which is a team option for TNA and Impact Wrestling at the time, Anthem, blah blah blah. And I didn't even know that my contract was coming up, to be honest. Like, all this stuff happened, with the termination of Scott D'Amore and stuff like that. And I looked at my contract, I was like, oh man, February 14th, that's like in 3 days. That's weird.
Yeah.
So, I had to inform Anthem that, my deal was lapsed and they had 10 days to pick up the option if they wanted to. And, if you don't ask, you might never find out. So I certainly asked if they could not pick up my option and we could, negotiate something different, because I feel like I've outworked that contract I signed. But, it was a team option. It's something that's, the ball is in their court. I signed the deal and it was totally within their rights to pick it up. And I'm completely fine with them picking it up. Like, it's still, a good deal. It's not something that like I'm upset about by any stretch, but
Right.
Just to read tweets and stuff being like I'm being held hostage and all this stuff and forced to stay here against my will. That's not the case. I signed that deal 2 years ago. I knew what I was signing when I signed it. At the end of the day, at the end of my career, I want to be able to look in the mirror, hold my head high, and say that I carry myself as a professional, first and foremost, above anything else I do in this business. I want to say I did things right. And, I signed that deal. I'm going to honor that deal. And, we'll see what happens in the next 12 months. Something could be renegotiated for something long-term. In the meantime, Anthem has certainly, mentioned that they would be interested in something like that. But at the same time, I thought it would be cool for the first time in my career to, kind of hit free agency and see what I was worth on the open market and then, renegotiate then and see what could happen then. But I'm totally cool here staying in TNA. Like I've dreamt of being in TNA since I was a 15-year-old kid and I tuned in on Wednesday nights for the first time. So, for that to happen, finally getting a TNA ring at the Palms for Hard to Kill, and then the next day against Will Ospreay for Snake Eyes, man, that's a dream come true. So I want to see this thing through, and I will for the next 11 months or whatever it is, and then we'll see where we go from there. But not being held hostage, that's a little too dramatic for me.
Yeah.
12 times if you're being held hostage.
Yeah. So it was just more of a bad timing thing, right? It was just more of a chronological. It just happened. The re-signing or the option picked up at just an inopportune time.
Yeah, and I get it that with Scott D'Amore leaving being terminated or whatever, and then this happening some 2 weeks later, it seems like it's all happening in order for a reason. But it was just my deal was coming up at the exact same time, and that was something that needed to be handled. And the one thing that I held on to was I don't want you to say I re-signed anything, because I'm not signing any new piece of paper. And obviously somebody, with the graphics department made a mistake with that. And then it just all got way worse.
Yeah.
But they picked up my option well within their rights. Happy here to stay. And, you're going to get the same Josh Alexander you've had for the past 5 years for the next, 11 months, if not more than that. And I'm going to continue getting in that ring and just giving everything I have to make sure everybody gets their money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Banger after banger. That's what we call it. Yeah. So, it's been a short time, but I mean, so far, what has been the highlight of your time as a TNA superstar, would you say?
I mean, the feeling when you're in the ring with somebody like Will Ospreay and you're just standing there, you haven't done anything yet. And there's 20 2,000, 2,500 people all chanting TNA at the top of their lungs, man.
Felt bigger than that, by the way. The crowd, the volume added some people to it, I think.
Never experienced it in my life, but like you couldn't tell me that like WrestleMania, it would sound any different for me, man.
Right.
Like I had goosebumps in the ring for all the things that happened in that match. Like I don't even think I took a breath the entire time I was wrestling. It was like an out of body experience, and that I could say that was because I was on that big stage with all the pressure, wrestling somebody like Will Ospreay and stuff like that. But I think it was just because of the fans, man. And I knew that Will came to the back, and the first thing he said was the same thing, man. He was just like, that crowd was insane. Like that was a dream come true, because he was a TNA kid too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy. And it's crazy when you think of everything that TNA is and was, when the history, I mean, it's got a rich history. I mean, I remember being there every Wednesday night at the pay-per-views at the fairgrounds and watching things and, you know, going to these certain matches. And it's just great to see that TNA. I mean, as you see behind me, I've got the original X Division title, which is by far one of my favorite, you know, TNA titles that they've had. You know, you recently, you talk about the Will Ospreay match. You've came off of a critically acclaimed match against Ospreay, as well as Alex Hammerstone, as arguably the face of TNA. Because I'm going to say you're the face. I'm not saying Moose, even though he's got the title. Let's be honest, Moose is not the face. You're the face. What does it mean to you to represent the company against such world-class talent from other companies?
It's something I take incredibly seriously. And like, there's not a lot of things in the wrestling business you can take seriously, but that's something that, for better or for worse, I'm going to take completely seriously. I have just the respect that's involved in having that be like the thing. You know what I mean? Like every time I get in the ring, I'm going to try to have the best match possible. For me to be the guy that's representing this company when like people from outside this company come in, be the gatekeeper for TNA or whatever I am, whether it's Marufuji, Vikingo, you know, Alex Hammerstone, Will Ospreay, the list goes on. If you're coming from a different company, you seem to have to step through me first. And I think that's because I've earned this reputation of being the guy that's going to push you to be your very best every single time, for better or for worse. Like, I might get heat from it from some people because they know they have a night's work if they're booked against me on that sheet. But like, that's who I am. And that's how I found success in this business. And that's how I'm going to continue to find success. And for me, it was just like, when I was growing up, man, the people that I was watching that I enjoyed the most, they seem to have that same attitude, whether it be the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Eddie Guerrero's, Kurt Angles, you know what I mean? Like, they were going out there and every single time they were going to bust their ass. And like, that's something that, you know, I got to do every single time, whether I'm banged up and hurt or whatever. By the time I get in that ring, the bell rings, it's always like an out of body experience for me to just, you know, all that pain, all those things, all those doubts, all that pressure, it washes away and it's just rising to the occasion every time. And I think that's because TNA, for the most part, is the land of opportunity, man. If you're going to come and you want to be seen and you want to show a different side of yourself, whether you're coming from a different company, you didn't get those opportunities, or you're coming from the independents and this is your first opportunity. For perfect example, someone like Alexander Hammerstone. I think he's an amazing wrestler. I think, you know, like physically, stature wise, he looks better than nearly anybody in all of wrestling right now. You know, you can't take that away from him, but the guy can go.
Yeah.
And I think people look at him, and much like when people look at me, you get pigeonholed into this thing. Like, I am so talented at wrestling that people are just like, Josh can't talk. He has no charisma. Like, that's the first thing they'll say, even though they've probably never seen a promo from me. You know what I mean? They just make assumptions. They see Alexander Hammerstone, they might think, oh, he's just a big jacked up guy that can't move. You know what I mean? Like, but like they think he's Mason Ryan or some other, like, you know what I mean, thing. Like, they've just pigeonholed him into this thing, and that's not the case. Like, Alexander Hammerstone went in there, and this guy, man, I pushed him the entire time, and I have left pro athletes lying on the ground sucking wind within like 5-6 minutes, and it's something I take a great deal of pride in. But Hammerstone, man, he was there blow for blow all the way through. And like, it's just like, he made the best of that opportunity, man. Like, I think he showed that he belongs in this locker room or anywhere else in the pro wrestling world with that match.
For sure.
And he has one of the coolest finishers right now. That the Nightmare Pendulum thing is ridiculous. I'm like, what? And he's so big, and to execute it like that, it's like, what?
I'm not going to say it's cool.
Yeah.
Try taking one.
But I will say what's cool is because you talk about like stepping into the ring with you and you bring in your A game. I remember, and I go back to Slammiversary, and this was a photo that I took. I remember this photo, and you just see how amazing that was. And
I think was that this bit? Was that this one?
That was that one, I believe.
Yeah, I think that was the one we went. Yeah.
And
that was a cool shot.
Just thinking of that moment is kind of one of those ones that have stuck in my head for sure. Another thing that's great about TNA is a lot of people are wanting to come to TNA, right? Mustafa Ali came in out of nowhere like a bullet, straight shot, defeating Chris Sabin, becoming the new TNA X Division champion at No Surrender. What does a talent of his caliber bring to the X Division? And could we see you and Mustafa Ali maybe square off at some point to get that X Division title from him?
I mean, I would jump at the opportunity to step in the ring with Mustafa Ali for sure, because he's coming from, WWE. He's had all the success in the world there. I think that, much like I said, this is the land of opportunity. He might have gotten the opportunities to show what he's capable of there. And you see him making the best of it with these promos and these videos that he's putting out, that he can have a different side and presentation that he might not have elsewhere gotten. And, for him to go out there with Chris Sabin at No Surrender, one of the best X Division matches I've ever seen, man. Blew me away. Chris Sabin, criminally underrated. 20 years of a resume of having amazing matches night in, night out, no matter who it's with. And just, for whatever reason.
Singles, tag teams. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I mean. For whatever reason, he's just not in the conversation for being one of the best in the world. Maybe because he's so quiet about it. But, he's quietly amazing. And Mustafa Ali stepping up. After he won that match, I don't know if the promo was on the pay-per-view or for the house, but he said this was his first major title in nearly 20 years in wrestling. And I think that sums up that this is the land of opportunity, man. For him to not have a major title in the wrestling business in 2 decades is mind-blowing for how talented he is. And He shows up here, he shows up, shows out, and now he has the X Division title on his shoulder to show the world that, he is capable of holding one of the most prestigious belts in the world. And I think, he's got a chip on his shoulder too, much like everybody else in this locker room, to go out there and show the world. And that's the kind of thing you need to have to be a part of this locker room.
And it does seem like he respects the lineage and the importance, and companies talk about the workhorse title sometimes, and I definitely think that fits that moniker. So I think we're all really excited to see what he does with it around the world, I guess. So moving on to the next pay-per-view, going to be kind of in your backyard, so to speak. TNA Sacrifice coming to us March 8th from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Eric Young, fellow Canadian, earned a world title shot at No Surrender and will face Moose at the pay-per-view. Let's just cut to it. When can we expect to see Josh Alexander go after the world title again?
I mean, it's a plan, man. But right now, I'm doing this gatekeeper thing.
You're gatekeeper, right? Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't think I'm ever going to let anybody. I'm going to have eyes in the back of my head, because it seems that every time I turn my back, somebody jumps me from behind. So I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Right.
But there's an open invitation. If you're out there in the world of pro wrestling, you don't think you've gotten the opportunity to show what you can do, or you want to come in here and try to make a statement, come meet me in the ring. Whether it be Sacrifice or anywhere else, I'll be waiting for you. And when it all shakes out, I'm pulling for Eric Young in that title match with Moose, because obviously I don't like Moose, and that's, that is what it is. I'm never going to like Moose, but for Eric Young, former member of Team Canada, come back to Canada and Windsor, Ontario at Sacrifice, get his shot. I'm hoping that he can, make history and get that TNA World Championship again, because I not only is he one of the best in the world, but I think that he is a representation of this company first and foremost, and has been for the better part of 2 decades. And it would be awesome to see him, win the belt. For me, I'm going to handle my business first, and before the year's out, not just for me, winning that TNA World Championship. I've been Impact World Champion and stuff like that. And, it's all in the same lineage, but, to get that belt that has the TNA on it, or the X Division belt, that red X on it, and that would please my 15-year-old inner child so much. And it would also please my 5-year-old son, Jet, because I'd have to get him a mini replica made. So,
yeah.
Absolutely, for sure. The one thing that a lot of the people in the wrestling world is talking about, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention this, but the icon and TNA Hall of Famer Sting wrapping up his legendary career soon, and was one of the cornerstones of the original TNA days. What accolades or maybe flowers would you like to give Sting ahead of his final match of pro wrestling?
See, I was a Surfer Sting fan.
Oh, big time.
I was a huge Surfer Sting fan, whether, you know, it was matches with like Big Van Vader or, you know, the Cactus Jack stuff in the mid 90s. Like that was the stuff that I was really
Great
into.
Muda, all that
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. When he went Crow Sting, I was still into it, but he didn't really wrestle as much. So like that's where I kind of fell off because I was a big cruiserweight fan during that era and stuff like that. But, you know, he's what, 65?
64 maybe?
Yeah, and he's still
older than you probably think.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. To be in a wrestling ring.
My point is, he's going out there jumping off entranceways and ladders and doing all this crazy stuff. And I think that's the flowers that I can give Sting is at his age, for the money he's made, he wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if he didn't love pro wrestling. And to see him still have a passion and a love for pro wrestling after 40 plus years in this business and to still do it at a level that is so good and stuff like that. Like, I think it's a testament to the man and his career. I have so much respect for somebody that, you know, has that kind of passion for this business. And, you know, he's had a hell of a career, Hall of Famer, all this other stuff. I don't think anybody can argue or dispel any of that. One of the greatest baby faces that's ever been in this business. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of Sting, so I'm very, very happy. And I hope that he finds solace in retirement, though.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, we don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, thank you for coming on today and talking with us, and of course, addressing the rumors with everything with your contract and TNA and everything else. Before we let you go, I know you're a busy man, being the gatekeeper of TNA and all. Is there anything that you would like to say to people that are watching or listening to this right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just keep tuning into TNA, man. Like, I know management's shooken up and all this other stuff, you know, for whatever reason. But the locker room is still the same, man. We are a collective group of people with a chip on our shoulder that are going to go out there every single time and give you everything we have to make sure you get your money's worth. And that's never going to change.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, it's an honor to have you back on the show. We'll have to get you on one more time so then you can hold the record of most appearances on our show. And thanks for stopping by, and we look forward to seeing you get gold around your waist very, very soon in the near future.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.